Beneath the ever-changing surface of the ocean lies a completely different world, vast, unexplored, almost extraterrestrial. This is a kingdom ruled by sharks, at the top of the food chain, for over 400 million years, long before the first dinosaurs walked the earth. Sharks have patrolled these waters, and they continue to do so even today. They come in many forms. Sharks are not just hunters, they are regulators, maintaining healthy prey populations and an intact marine food web. His senses are extraordinary. As we shall see very soon, sharks have earned their place as the apex predators of the deep sea. As dawn broke over the shallow waters of the Bahamas, one of those predators is on the hunt. The tide whispers through the mangroves. Sunlight ripples over the roots sprouting from the sand, like gnarled fingers gasping for air. Beneath them, the water shimmers with green and gold. Here, in this silent labyrinth, life begins for the offspring of one of the ocean's most refined hunters. Elegant and pale like polished bronze, lemon sharks, Negaprion brevirostris, glide through the intricate channels. Each slow movement of their tail propels them forward silently. Each flap stirs the sediment, forming clouds of dust that hang like smoke in the stillness. For these young people, this is a world of learning. This is a breeding ground for abundance and danger. A mullet stirs up the silt, feeding near the roots. The young shark senses it before it sees it. Deep in its snout, tiny pores detect the faint electrical currents pulsing from the fish's muscles. Its body tenses. A wave of movement ripples through its body from head to tail. Then, an explosion. The attack is instantaneous. The mullet vanishes in the blink of an eye. The shark turns sharply and resumes its glide. The tide rises, pressing against the mangrove roots with it. The young sharks venture deeper into the labyrinth. Now they move together, not in schools, but in small scattered groups. Two slide side by side, their movements perfectly mirrored. Another joins them, only to drift apart again. To an untrained observer, it might seem like a coincidence, but these bonds are real. Scientists have followed the same individuals over years of their development and found that these early friendships endure. Lemon sharks remember it. They recognize their usual companions, share space, and even hunt close to one another. They are curiously sociable. A shadow passing overhead startles them. Instinctively, they scatter among the mangroves. The figure seen above is larger and moves more slowly. A nurse shark. Danger. Young lemon sharks settle near the sand, their coloration almost fading in the light filtering through the sky. Their skin glows with a faint yellow hue in the sunlight, blending perfectly with the bay's background. Moments later, the shadows dissipate and they resurface. They move. They rest, they feed, they hide, they are repeated. Mangroves are not merely a refuge, they are a fortress. Its roots filter the incoming tide, trapping sediment, smoothing the waves, and creating a tranquil, nutrient-rich waterway. Countless creatures thrive here, juvenile fish, crabs, and shrimp, all part of the living machinery of this nursery. For young lemon sharks, these are their first lessons in predation. They learn to use timing, stealth, and patience. At midday, the water warms up and the sharks slow down. They seek out shallow sandbanks where sunlight filters through a veil of algae. There they rest, their fins protruding from the surface like pale yellow sails. Their eyes remain half open, scanning their surroundings. They don't even feel completely at ease in stillness. The mangroves teem with life, and danger lurks around every shadow. A heron watches from a branch, its beak as sharp as a spear, ready to snatch the smallest fish. Young barracudas patrol the outer channels. As the sun dips westward, a gentle change begins. The tide is rising outwards, water drains from the channels, and with it, the scent of the open sea intensifies. Among the young lemon sharks, a sense of unease is palpable. One, bolder than the others, begins to follow the current. It glides alongside the last roots, past curtains of seaweed that sway in time with the current. The bottom is collapsing. The light changes from gold to turquoise. Further on, the open reef awaits. But before reaching those deeper waters, the young shark returns. The mangroves are a safe haven for now. The open ocean belongs to older, larger predators. Someday it will venture there, but not yet. Its world remains here among the tangled roots where it was born. As the young man stealthily returns to the labyrinth, the scene silently shifts towards the mothers far from the coast. The pregnant females begin their long journey back to these breeding grounds. They have traveled for months across the open sea, guided by a map written in scents and memories. Each one knows the exact bay where she was born. In late spring, they return. Here, under the watchful stillness of the mangroves, they give birth to a new generation. Tiny replicas detach from their bodies, some swimming, some hunting. Thus, the cycle begins anew, as it has for countless years. By midsummer, the hatchery teems with new life. The young born at the beginning of the season have grown bolder and more skillful. Now they hunt larger prey, even small fish that swim too close to the surface. Their bodies lengthen, their muscles thicken beneath soft, golden skin. They explore the boundaries of their home, venturing deeper into the canals with each passing week. Some unknowingly reunite with their mothers. Others are carried towards the reef and never return. With the arrival of the dry season, the water in the mangroves clears, sunlight penetrates deeper, and visibility improves. The predators that live outside become more active. Barracudas, tarpon, and occasionally a reef shark attracted by the abundance of hatchlings. The daycare is no longer as safe as it used to be. The boldest lemon sharks begin to leave for good, crossing the reef into the open sea. They won't return for years. Those that survive will reach 3 meters in length, roaming the continental shelves and coral slopes. In time, when their own bodies are filled with life, they too will find their way back these same mangroves, these same winding routes where it all began. As the tide recedes, the mangrove channels grow still. A single juvenile remains near the edge, its gills open as it senses the changing salinity, its body swaying gently with the tide. The moment stretches on. Then, with a powerful flick of its tail, it glides forward. The water deepens. The color changes to light blue. Coral heads rise from the sand like ancient towers. Parrotfish graze among themselves. The rays travel through the beams of sunlight. The lemon shark floats by, disappearing among the branches of the reef. Further on, black shapes flicker against the surface. The next ruler of these shallow waters moves among them. The Great Barrier Reef lies beneath a morning sky. Sunlight filters through the shallow water, spreading out in ribbons of gold and turquoise. Each coral head teems with life. Sponges, fans, anemones. Everything sways to the rhythm of the slow pulse of the sea. Among this living mosaic, shadows patrol. Slender, with dark backs and white fin tips, the black-tip reef sharks, Carchahinus melanopterus, glide just below the waves beneath them. Clouds of fusiliers twinkle and disperse, reflecting the light like liquid silver. The sharks turn sharply. The bodies flex in perfect arcs. Its dorsal fins cut through the surface, forming elegant triangles. This is the coral frontier, where the dim light meets the open sea. As the sun rises, the tide comes in, bringing new life with it. A small group of black-tip reef sharks forms near a coral reef, a cluster of corals that rises from the sandy bottom. They swim in a scattered formation, the leader slightly ahead and the others making their way behind. A school of mullet is getting too close. The sharks respond in unison. The group curves, closing the circle and cornering the fish against the coral wall. Panic erupts in flashes of silver. A shark accelerates, twisting mid-turn, its jaws snapping shut on its prey. The others slip through the scattered school, each taking their share. It only lasts a few seconds. The group disperses, now slow, almost languid. They move toward the outer edge of the reef, their movements fluid and effortless above them. The waves break into white foam, their sound muffled to a dull hum beneath the surface. The sharks' bodies gleam in the changing sunlight, bronze, grey, white, perfectly adapted to disappear into this refracted world. At midday, The current slows and activity decreases. Black-tip reef sharks congregate on a coral pillar teeming with wrasses and gobies. They remain motionless while cleaner fish dart swiftly along their flanks, stripping parasites from their gills and fins. The mouths of sharks open slightly, revealing rows of fine teeth, but they make no move to bite. His eyes, dark and motionless, remain impassive. Elsewhere, other black-tip reef sharks congregate. Small groups of females rest in one section of the reef, the males in another. They return to the same territories, often accompanied by familiar companions. When they meet, there is no hostility. Some float side by side, suspended in the water, letting themselves be carried by the gentle sway of the tide. As the afternoon light softens, the water changes hue. Golden rays descend through the turquoise to reach the deep cobalt blue. The sharks become restless again. The tide shifts, bringing with it a new scent, that of small fish swept along by the current. Black-tip reef sharks thrash about, moving their tails. Once again, they line up and hunt. In a burst of fluid, a shark lunges, twisting its body in a tight spiral. The prey tries to escape upward, but it's too late. The shark's jaws snap shut in an explosion of bubbles. As summer draws to a close, calm returns. The water warms. In shallow lagoons, sheltered by the outer reef, female sharks seek refuge. Here, the waves are gentler. The current calm, one female slows down, circling a small patch of seagrass where the seabed glows faintly. She gives birth to several tiny cubs, perfect replicas of herself. Each one is no longer than the length of a man's arm. They swim away immediately, seeking refuge in the shallows. Their fins already have white tips, gleaming like polished crystal in the clear water no mother stays behind. The young must fend for themselves. The lagoon becomes their nursery. Small fish flit among the beds of grass. The crabs scurry among the coral debris. By the time the season changes, the adults have returned to the reef's depths. The cycles of light, tide, and life resume. Blacktip reef sharks continue their patrols. Evening turns to night. The surface glows amber, then violet, and finally darkens. Small lanternfish emerge from the depths. The reef begins to glow with bioluminescence. Blacktip reef sharks slow their movements, taking refuge in coral ledges and caverns. The current cools, and the murmur of the reef quiets. Only the sound of distant waves remains. Then, a change. Beyond the coral shelf, the sea deepens into an endless blue. The reef fades into the horizon. Ahead lies the open sea. 3. Short fin mako shark, the blue desert, Central Pacific. The Pacific extends in all directions, a vast blue desert under a blazing sun, landless, without a reef, without shelter, simply the infinite brilliance of open water. The sunlight penetrates in golden beams, fading into the cobalt darkness, and from that void, movement arises. A metallic blue flash. This is the short fin mako shark, Isurus oxyrhynchus. It is the purest expression of speed in the ocean. Every line of its body is designed for movement. Its skin gleams with a polished shine, blue on top and white underneath, a perfect contrast to the sky and sea. Her eyes are black mirrors, large and motionless. They are attuned to detect even the slightest movement across hundreds of meters of water. They never completely stop moving. For the mako shark, stillness is suffocation. Dawn begins as a faint light on the waves. The mako shark swims in circles in the upper thermocline. The powerful tail describes rhythmic arcs, then a flash. Small silver flashes in the distance, a school of mackerel shimmering like a moving mirror. Instantly, the mako shark changes position. Its pectoral fins tilt slightly downward, its body tensing in anticipation. The hunt begins. It dives first, disappearing into the pale blue beneath the sandbar. The water becomes cold and dense. Then, with a single convulsive flick of its tail, it launches itself upward. The attack is an explosion. In some cases, it reaches almost 70 kilometers per hour. The shark tears through the school of mackerel like a bullet through glass. The scales disperse in clouds of silver dust. A single fish disappears between its jaws, then another. The water ripples with bubbles, then silence. The mako drifts with the current, its jaws working methodically, its eyes scanning for stragglers. For a moment it glides motionless, conserving energy. The sea is cold here, colder than her own blood. But inside, specialized blood vessels, the rate mirabile, trap the heat generated by constant muscle movement. allowing the mako shark to maintain a body temperature higher than that of the surrounding water. Once fed, the mako slows down and swims along the thermocline. His body barely seems to move. Only the tail flexes, propelling it through miles of nowhere. He can travel hundreds of kilometers without resting. Sometimes it rises to the surface, passing through the thin meniscus of the ocean, only to plunge again in a long, graceful rhythm. Hours pass. The ocean remains silent, save for the rumble of pressure and the faint hiss of plankton rising on invisible currents. Mako's eyes once again detect movement. It's not prey, but there's another one just like it. Slightly smaller, the other swims parallel at a safe distance. They glide side by side for minutes. They are solitary hunters, but sometimes during the long migrations that traverse the Pacific gyres, they cross paths. Without warning, the mako shark turns and shoots towards the surface. An infraction occurs. For a moment, she hangs suspended in the air, spinning, the sunlight reflecting off her wet skin before crashing back into the waves. No one knows for sure why they jump. Perhaps to shake off parasites. Perhaps to glimpse the outside world. Or perhaps for no reason at all. Back under the waves, the ocean is calmer. The day grows longer and becomes empty. The mako glides on slow patrol, sight hunting, through the sense of smell, due to the weak electrical signals from muscles contracting in the dark. With the changing seasons, the mako shark's migration route follows the invisible paths of the North Pacific gyre. In summer, it moves toward the temperate limits, California, Japan, and the northern coasts, where upwelling currents bring abundant food. In winter, it moves back towards the equator. Another type of mission arrives in the middle of the year, mating season. At some point along their vast migration route, in the open expanses between the subtropical zones, males and females converge. The courtship is brief and violent. The males bite the female's fins and flanks, holding on tightly during the act. The scars, visible months later, are the only evidence of what happened. Fertilization begins a gestation period that can last more than a year. The embryos, nourished first by the yolk and then by unfertilized eggs, develop into strong and ferocious creatures before birth. When the time comes, the females seek out the warmest areas of the ocean gyre subtropical waters near the surface, safe from the cold of the depths. There they give birth to a small number of fully formed puppies. There is no parental care. The young swim immediately, driven by the instinct to embark on their own endless journey. Many will not survive, but those who do will one day follow the same invisible currents, returning to the same latitudes in a cycle as old as the ocean itself. Now, as the light begins to fade, the sea changes color once again. The ocean surrounding Cocos Island stirs before dawn. Far from the continent, these volcanic cliffs stand like sentinels in the eastern Pacific lush. Emerald, peaks surrounded by an endless blue field. Beneath the surface, the base of the island dissolves into ridges and seamounts. They emerge from the abyss. Its slopes are covered in coral, sponges, clouds of fish. Rays of light pass through the water, and in them the movement begins, slow, deliberate, increasing its density. Until the sea itself seems to spin, they come by the hundreds, neat, with a bronze back, pale as a ghost below. These are scalloped hammerhead sharks, Sphyrna lewini. Their strange winged heads, known as cephalophils, move from side to side, perceiving the invisible. They move in perfect formation, the school turning and folding as one. From above, it looks like smoke rising through the water. From within, it is a living stream of muscle. As the sun rises, their numbers increase. Some are small, others are enormous. Old females with broad, scarred heads and tail fins. They congregate on the seamount, drawn by the confluence of currents, temperature, and weak magnetic signals. Cleaner wrasses flutter around him, tiny, brave. The parasites gnaw on the gills and fins. The sharks glide slowly through their care, undisturbed. Each hammerhead shark tilts its head slightly, scanning its surroundings. Along the edges of its strange, flattened skull, electroreceptors called ampullae of Lorenzini trace faint electric fields through the water. Here, where sunlight meets the depths, sense becomes a map. The shark can detect the heartbeats of its prey, the pulse of the comrades, even the whisper of Earth's own magnetic field. By midday, the formation has thickened. Hundreds of specimens. They spiral upwards and downwards again, their pale bellies flashing in sequence. These are not chaotic groupings. Here there is order, a social rhythm dictated by dominance. The largest females occupy the center. The males prowl around the edges, keeping their distance. For hammerhead sharks, hierarchy dictates the rhythm of the day. Together, they patrol the seamount, rising with the light and diving with the shadows. But as evening falls, the cohesion dissolves. One by one, the sharks disperse, venturing out into the open sea. Today's social world is giving way to loneliness. The light fades, passing from gold to blue and then to black. A lone female breaks away from the last group. She descends the slope of the seamount into darker waters. Here, silence reigns, broken only by the slow crackling of shrimp in the distance and the soft murmur of the current. She tilts her head, moving it from side to side search. Beneath the sand, the heartbeat of a ray buried in camouflage betrays it. The hammerhead shark twists, launching its attack. A sudden burst of movement. The sand churns as the ray tries to escape. The shark strikes first, its jaws snapping shut with a dull crunch. It makes a complete turn and then disappears into the darkness. As night falls, the hammerhead shark's world transforms. Bioluminescent plankton glows in its wake. Now alone, it wanders for hours, conserving energy in slow circles around the island's edge. At dawn, it will re-emerge alongside the others. For hammerhead sharks, daylight brings safety in the crowd. The school of sharks returns to the same seamounts every morning, often to the same formations. Scientists believe they use both landmarks and geomagnetic navigation to do so. Within the group, each shark knows its place. Females lead the migrations. They set the pace across hundreds of kilometers between feeding and cleaning stations scattered throughout the eastern Pacific. They are social predators. Their schooling behavior reduces harassment from males, confuses prey, and alleviates the constant vigilance required when living alone. There is communication here, a synchronized tilt, a profound change, a shared pulse in the current. Their lives follow the rhythm of the great ocean upwellings. When cold, nutrient-rich water rises from the depths, it brings schools of fish with it, and hammerhead sharks follow. From Cocos Island, they travel southwest to Malpelo and then beyond to the Galapagos. In summer, when plankton proliferates and prey is plentiful, schools of fish increase considerably. Then, silently, the females begin to disappear. They leave the open islands to head for shallow continental waters, traveling hundreds of kilometers to coasts few humans ever see there, sheltered by warm bays and mangrove channels. They give birth to live young. Small, perfect replicas, no longer than a forearm. For a time, these nurseries will protect them from the dangers of the open sea. The mothers don't stay. Months later, they return, thinner and scarred. The cycle repeats. The school is reformed. The same seamounts, the same sunlight, the same slow dance on the depths now as the sun sets and the light turns indigo. Hammerhead turtles are becoming scarce again. Their long shadows stretch across the coral slopes. Then, one by one, they fade into darkness. The water cools down quickly. The pressure is increasing. The colors fade. The last glimmers of light on the surface fade into darkness. All sounds fade away until only the slow pulse of the current remains. Meanwhile, miles away, the sea remains motionless. No wind, without waves, just a shimmering blue plain stretching as far as the eye can see. This is the Sargasso Sea, the motionless heart of the Atlantic. Here, the surface moves under a haze of heat interrupted only by floating mats of golden seaweed. Beneath these tangled rafts, life gathers in miniature. Shrimp, juvenile fish, crabs no bigger than a fingernail and circling beneath them. Slow, no rush. The shadow of a hunter glides by, an oceanic white-tip shark, Carcharinus longimanus. Its fins gleam a brilliant white against the deep sapphire blue, as if painted by the sunlight. The broad, rounded tips sparkle with every turn. The shark's body is thick and muscular, built for endurance. This is an animal designed to roam. Her skin glows bronze in the light, and her movements are deliberate, confident, as if the ocean itself were adapting to her path. She circles the drifting sargassum with measured grace. The water is crystal clear, with visibility extending for tens of meters in every direction. In this desert in the middle of the ocean, there is no reef, no coast. There's nowhere to hide, only scattered islands of weeds. The shark examines them one by one, following the faint scents and electrical pulses of the creatures sheltering below. A slight movement of its tail, a tilt of its pectoral fin, and it glides toward a group of fish scurrying in panic among the seaweed. A thrust, a bite. The water bursts in a brief flash of scales, then silence returns. The oceanic white-tip shark is patient and curious. It's in no hurry. Every ripple deserves to be investigated. A drifting jellyfish pulses faintly near the surface. The shark brushes against it, testing it, and then continues on its way. A young tortoise stops to rest among the undergrowth. The shark circles once, twice, assessing the situation. The turtle dives, saved by the shark's indifference. For the white-tip reef shark, not every encounter ends in prey. Hours pass, the sun beats down, the surface glistens like molten glass. Then, a scent faint but clear. Oil, blood, decay. The shark turns sharply, following the invisible trail. A dead marlin floats ahead, its massive body swaying lazily in the surf. Within minutes, the stillness is broken. Beyond the horizon, other shapes appear. More white tips, attracted by the same signal carried by the currents. They converge slowly, surrounding the carcass. The first to arrive approaches cautiously, its dorsal fin cutting through the water. Another glides alongside it, its body rigid and its pectoral fins lowered. It is a gesture of dominance. The first one arches its back in response. A third one performs a short, explosive thrust, breaking the surface before returning to its original shape. These are the negotiation signals to decide who eats first. Then feeding begins. The sharks attack from all angles, tearing at the marlin's flank. Bubbles burst on the surface and flashes of white fins mark each violent turn. It's chaos. Yet within the frenzy there is order. Each shark knows its moment to move in, to bite, to retreat. Pieces of meat float away, sinking in slow spirals into the depths. Within minutes, the marlin is reduced to fragments. The sharks disperse as suddenly as they had gathered. Silence returns, broken only by the rustling of shrimp beneath the floating seaweed. The white-tip reef shark remains in place, circling, its gills open with effort. But its pace remains constant. Its black, motionless eye scans the void. It knows no fear. This shark lives on curiosity. White-tip reef sharks are drawn to anything unknown in their habitat. They have followed ships for centuries, tracking the wakes of ocean liners and fishing boats. Sailors used to call them the wolves of the sea. They appeared out of nowhere, following shipwrecks and debris, feeding on everything the ocean offered. Even today, they boldly approach divers, circling them and observing them with the calm intelligence of a predator. But now their presence has become rare. Once among the most common sharks of the open ocean, they have now dwindled to a fraction of their former abundance. The vast ocean gyres they once dominated are now emptier, devoid of tuna schools and fishing fleets, yet the rhythms of life persist. The shark lets itself be carried by the current, following the invisible circles of the Atlantic. The warm waters cradle its path, tracing loops that take months to complete, from the Caribbean to the Azores, from the Cape Verde Ridge to the mid-Atlantic ridges. Along its journey, it passes through convergence zones where currents meet and trap life in long, drifting lines. There, the bloom of plankton attracts small fish, which in turn attracts the biggest hunters. Breeding is infrequent, unpredictable. Males travel great distances in search of receptive females. When they find each other, mating is brief, often rough, and leaves scars on the female's fins. Gestation lasts a year or more. When the time comes, the females retreat to calm, warm areas of the ocean gyre far from predators. There, in the blue stillness, they give birth to a handful of puppies. They are all born with the same white-tipped fins. The youngsters drift away immediately, beginning a life of solitary wandering in the vastness of the ocean. Weeks pass. Here, the seasons change imperceptibly. There are no tides, no storms, only the slow ebb and flow of the currents and the eternal cycle of light and darkness. The oceanic white-tip shark hunts when it can, rest when you need to. Get to know this sea intimately. Every temperature change, every change in salinity, every scent that travels with the water. Now, as evening falls, the surface flattens out again. The light softens, shifting from gold to violet, and the horizon fades into the mist. The shark rises to the surface, breaking it with the tip of its dorsal fin. Then movement. The marlin's remains, half-eaten and torn apart, sink into the fading light. Small fish peck at the remains. The white-tipped fish circles again and then swims away. Meanwhile, 1,000 meters below, the light dissolves into grey. The sun's reach fades until it disappears. Only a faint silvery mist remains, trembling in the cold. The seabed stretches out like a barren moon, mud ridges, scattered bones, the silent architecture of a world without day. And through this stillness, something stirs, a shadow, slow, immense. It slips out of the gloom. Her eyes shine with a green hue, reflecting the faintest glimmers of light. The six-gilled shark, Hexanchus griseus, as ancient as the depths themselves, moves with the measured calm of time made flesh. Its body is enormous, almost 5 meters long. The skin, slate grey and dotted with pale scars, ripples over powerful muscles. Along its side, 6 large gill slits open and close rhythmically. This is a feature no modern shark possesses. Its snout is broad, its teeth small but serrated in rows that suggest crushing rather than slicing. The six-gill shark glides near the bottom just above the sediment, where the water thickens with the cold and stillness. Food is scarce here, survival fosters patience. The shark's eyes dart from left to right, wide open. They detect the faintest glimmer of bioluminescence, the flickering lure of a lanternfish above, the pulse of a jellyfish descending from the light-filled world. But tonight, another scent stirs the water, weak but unmistakable, the scent of death. The six-gill shark circles, following the invisible trail with each flick of its tail. Its massive body ripples forward, barely making a sound. The current carries the scent from the surface, oil, flesh, and decay, the unmistakable sign of a whale carcass. It rises higher and higher through the soft darkness. Then a form emerges. A mountain of white flesh lay spread out on the seabed. A fallen whale, now the center of an ephemeral world. Hagfish writhed over its body, glistening with slime. Eels and grenadiers prowled the edges, darting in and out like thieves. A slow and enormous Greenland sleeper shark silently tears apart a fin. The six-gill shark approaches, its slow movement parting the crowd. The smaller scavengers disperse, though the hagfish remain undisturbed, burrowing deeper into the carcass. The shark draws near, opening its jaws. The mouth is enormous. The teeth sink into the fat. It snaps its head violently, tearing off a chunk the size of a tire. The flesh rises slowly, forming bubbles that ascend like clouds. It bites again. For half an hour it feeds. The water becomes cloudy with oil and sediment. When it has had its fill, it swims away. His stomach bulges slightly. Others arrive, more six-gilled fish, smaller, perhaps younger. They feed together, unhurriedly, unconcerned with rank or rivalry. In this deep realm, there is no need for aggression. The ocean's bounty is scarce, but when found, there is enough to share. When the banquet ends, silence returns. The hagfish resume their work, cleaning up the remains. The shark circles once more and then descends, leaving behind the faint glow of the decomposing whale. It dives deeper, back into the infinite darkness. The pressure increases, the temperature drops, but the shark isn't worried. Their metabolism is slow, his muscles are efficient. Every night, billions of tiny creatures like shrimp, lanternfish and squid rise from the depths to the surface to feed in the darkness. The six-gill fish follows them, ascending hundreds of meters. For it, this is a daily rhythm, a vertical tide. Around midnight, it glides through the middle zone of the water. This is where the faint blue twilight flickers high above. Here, the shark hunts. A school of squid floats nearby, their bodies pulsating with a faint red light. The shark approaches from below, invisible against the darkness. Suddenly, with a sudden burst, it attacks, its jaws snapping shut around one, then another. The squid scatter in a burst of ink and light. The shark turns around, swallowing whole what it has caught. Then it sinks back into stillness. In spring, far below the continental slopes, the rhythm of the deep changes. Male six-gill fish seek out the canyons, vast trenches carved into the seabed where currents converge and life stirs in the shadows. There, beneath the weight of 1,000 meters of water, they mate. The males bite to hold the females firmly, leaving crescent-shaped scars along their flanks. Months later, the pregnant females retreat to calmer slopes, places with soft sediment and weak currents. There they give birth to live young, perhaps 50, each a meter long, each a perfect miniature of its former mother. They emerge in a world without sunlight, guided only by instinct from birth. They know how to plan, hunt, and disappear. The life of the six-gill shark unfolds at a pace unimaginable to the surface world. It grows slowly, matures late, and lives for centuries. Now, as the night cycle ends, the shark begins its descent once more. The surface creatures retreat, sinking back into the abyss. The six-gilled fish follows, drawn downwards by the pressure and the peace. The water becomes colder and denser. The faint blue fades back into black. The carcass of the whale it fed on has begun to decompose. Every fragment of tissue, every drifting particle becomes food for smaller creatures. Worms colonize the bones. Crabs scavenge among the remains. The shark passes by for the last time. Then it sinks further down the slope, towards the open plains, where light has never reached. There are no colors here without reference points, no sound except the pulse of its gills. Below, something faintly luminous begins to rise. This is the realm of the ghost of the deep 3,000 feet below the Japanese continental shelf. There is no sound. The water presses like a stone, black infinity. Here, sunlight is a myth. Only the faint glow of bioluminescent creatures disturbs the void. And then from the darkness, something stirs. It moves slowly. With a strange, otherworldly grace, her skin, pale pink and almost translucent, glows faintly in the scattered light. The veins run through the flesh like fine blue threads. The body is long, gentle, slightly lame, adapted not for speed but for patience. Extending from its face is a long, flattened snout, full of electroreceptors. It moves slightly as it sweeps the water. This is the goblin shark, Mitsukurina austoni, the ghost of the deep. It glides inches above the mud, its tail swaying in slow, even movements. Its small eyes scan the darkness, but it doesn't rely on sight. It senses the ocean through the minuscule electrical signals of hidden fish, the rhythm of hearts beating in the water. It glides alongside a rocky slope, scarred by centuries of underwater landslides. Transparent amphipods flutter near the surface of the sediment, feeding on the detritus that falls from above. The shark passes among them, scattering them. Then it slows down again, waiting. Time stretches out. Down here, nothing happens fast. A flash breaks the monotony, a light. Small, quick, the pulse of a squid. It appears, its arms waving like ribbons. The goblin shark senses it, leans slightly, and remains motionless. For an instant, all is silent. Then, movement. The jaw shoots forward with surprising speed. The entire lower part of its face unfolds like a mechanical trap. Its mouth doubles its reach in an instant, its needle-sharp teeth gleaming with an eerie white. The attack is silent but violent. The squid vanishes. Its jaws retract, folding neatly beneath its snout. The shark swallows once and resumes its slow, spectral drift. Its almost elastic attack is propelled by tendons that store potential energy like a crossbow. In the absence of light, it has sacrificed speed for precision, vision for vibration. The result is a hunter who barely moves until absolutely necessary, and then it moves faster than the eye can follow it. It rarely encounters others of its kind. The goblin shark is completely solitary, a relic of an ancient ocean, an animal whose ancestors swam in these same trenches when dinosaurs ruled the earth. Its form hasn't changed in over 100 million years. Down here, evolution progresses slowly. It drifts along the edge of an underwater canyon, its snout peering into the void. Every few minutes it stops, floating, motionless. Sometimes it rises a little to where the water is slightly warmer and rich in plankton blooms. Small lanternfish congregate in these layers. They glow faintly, their bellies throbbing with a blue-green light. When the shark approaches, they scatter, disappearing into the darkness. It doesn't chase. The goblin shark rarely pursues its prey. Instead, it waits for the unwary, those carried along by the current. The slow-moving, its metabolism is glacial. It can go days, even weeks without feeding. Each meal is enough to sustain him through long silences. Even its reproduction remains a great mystery. Scientists know it gives birth to live young, but no one has ever observed mating or the birthing process. The only clues come from captured specimens of pregnant females with developing embryos and the umbilical cord still attached. Some suspect that the young are born on deep slopes near continental shelves. Others believe they seasonally ascend to shallower waters to give birth and then disappear back into the abyss. The goblin shark's lifespan can exceed 60 years, perhaps even more. Each decade it follows the same silent routes. Occasionally the currents change. The cold water of the abyss rises, bringing nutrients from the depths. The goblin shark follows it, ascending a few hundred meters into the twilight around it. Small creatures float upward. Copepods, shrimp, and tiny jellyfish that sparkle like shimmering lights. The shark moves among them. Then, without warning, it attacks again, with a swift, sharp bite at a passing ratfish. Its jaws snap open, close, and retract. Another flash of movement, another moment of stillness. Hours pass. The current intensifies, drawing plankton and detritus to the surface. The goblin shark emerges with him. The color of the water changes from black to deep indigo, from indigo to steel blue. Up here, the pressure decreases. The water warms. A faint ray of sunlight filters through. The shark stops. Above, thousands of meters higher, the ocean sparkles with daylight. Far beyond, the land of Japan looms invisible. But the goblin shark belongs only to this in-between space. Meanwhile, a new dawn is breaking over False Bay. The air is calm. The sea is a mirror, pale, cold. Along the rugged ridge of Seal Island, thousands of Cape Fur seals stir, a restless tide of dark, slender bodies. They bark and push each other on the edge. Their calls echo over the water. Beneath them, hidden by the shadows, something immense moves in silence. A great white shark, Carcarius, glides beneath the colony, its gaze fixed on the sky, its body swaying with perfect control. It circles. Twice, all its senses are on high alert. Rays of light pierce the surface. From above, the ocean appears empty. From below, it's a theater of anticipation. The shark measures distance and time. The seal's ascent, the change in light, the ebb of the tide. It is patient. Then a seal slips into the water immediately. The shark moves. The muscles in its flanks tense. Its pectoral fins lower. Its tail flexes once. Twice, the seal dives down, zigzagging through beams of light. For an instant, it's safe. Then the shark accelerates. In less than 2 seconds, it emerges from the depths. A flash of silver and white. The water erupts in a jet. The great white gaps, spinning in the air, jaws open. The seal was caught mid-turn. Gravity claims them both in a thunderous collision. The sea calms down. Foam drifts. Silence returns. The predator dives again, leaving a trail of blood in soft clouds. Its body relaxes, its movements slow. Now it drifts in cooler waters, its heart rate stabilizing. The muscles that powered the ambush heat intensely. For every explosive hunt, there are hours of rest. At midday, the shark swims near the thermocline, 20 meters deep. The sun's reflections ripple across its skin, slate gray on top, white underneath. Perfect camouflage for both hunter and prey. Great white sharks are solitary hunters, though not entirely alone. Around Seal Island, several sharks share the same hunting grounds. They know each other well. They demonstrate their dominance through posture, not violence. They arch their backs, swim in slow circles, slap the water with their tails, and send a message. Bloodshed is rare. Each shark respects the hierarchy. When the sun is high in the sky, the island becomes calm. The seals remain on land, wary after the morning's ambushes. Below, the sharks rest in deeper waters. Some lie motionless in cool areas, oscillating between sleep and wakefulness. Others patrol the shadows beyond the reef. Each great white shark carries with it a memory of roots and seas. Scientists have tracked them across entire ocean basins, guided by magnetism, temperature, and smell. Off the coast of South Africa, these waters are feeding grounds, but the seasonal change will soon begin. With the arrival of the winter currents heading north, the prey will disperse, then the sharks will head outwards towards the open sea. A female, larger than the others, moves away from the island. She bears the scars of old battles, irregular lines along her flank, white and scarred against the grey she has fed well. Now, instinct calls her elsewhere. Her migration begins, thousands of kilometers towards warmer seas. For weeks it follows the continental shelf. Tuna glisten below its trajectory. Dolphins cross in groups, their clicks fading into the distance. Occasionally it ascends to investigate a scent, a school of fish, a drifting carcass, but it rarely feeds. His journey is long, and his hunger repressed. The great white shark is designed for travel. Its crescent-shaped tail propels it with minimal effort. Its oil-rich liver provides buoyancy for covering great distances. In the open Pacific, it encounters warm currents that carry plankton and prey. The days go by, the light becomes warmer, the sea bluer. Beneath it, the depths teem with life, squid, marlin, and turtles. Above, frigate birds soar through the sky. It's approaching the Neptune Islands, off the southern coast of Australia, another seasonal meeting point where cold currents meet warm ones. The males patrol here. When it arrives, it swims slowly in circles through the shallow, seaweed-shaded waters. The water is thick with the scent of sea lions from the rocks. The animals bark and dive into the waves, oblivious to the giant lurking below. The shark waits. Hunting here is different. Sea lions are faster and more agile among the dense algae. The shark adapts. It uses stealth instead of speed, ambushing from the depths in the twilight where the light fades. When the opportunity arises, a young sea lion that ventures too far out, it strikes. The attack is swift, the outcome certain. Between hunts, she circles the islands, moving through corridors of colder water. The males approach cautiously, their tiny bodies dwarfed by her. They gently nudge her, circle her, and assess her. Sometimes they follow her for hours, matching her speed. Mating here is rare. Courtship is subtle, synchronized movements, occasional contact. If she is successful, she will later give birth to her young far from these islands, in warmer coastal waters where danger is less and food is plentiful. Gestation lasts almost 18 months, one of the longest among sharks. At birth, the pups are already formidable, measuring over 1 meter in length. From their first breath of salt water, they become hunters. Their mother will never see them again. His role has concluded. She returns to the open sea. As the months pass, the seasons change again. The austral winter approaches, and cold currents flow north from Antarctica. With them, the sharks return, drawn once more to the seal colonies of South Africa migration, feeding, reproduction. Everything continues as it has for tens of thousands of years. Now the female approaches the mainland again. The water cools, the air grows colder. She glides along the edge of the continental shelf, rising toward the familiar silhouette of Seal Island above her. The same cries echo through the waves. He turns around twice, resuming his old patrol route. Beneath it, the cold currents turn south, flowing towards distant horizons. Dawn breaks gently over the Hawaiian archipelago. The sea shimmers with gold. The light reflects on the calm water as if the entire ocean were breathing beneath this radiant calm. The coral slopes descend to open sandy plains. Here, where the reef merges with the void, the tiger shark patrols, Galeocerdo. It is immense, almost 4 meters of pure musculature and elegance. Its skin marked by dark vertical bars that undulate with every movement. These are the stripes that earned her the name Tigress. His eyes are wide open and motionless. The tiny damselfish scatter at the slightest touch of her shadow. The mullet dive into the sand, their whiskered faces disappearing among the grains. The shark pays them no attention. She's looking for something bigger, something more substantial around it. Sunlight filters through the surface, fragmented by the waves into golden ribbons. She slips between them. A sea turtle surfaces, leaping for air. The tiger shark senses the movement instantly. Its tail begins to throb more rapidly, its body tensing into a single flowing line. At first, it ascends slowly. The turtle dives again, its flippers moving gently in the blue. The shark is approaching. One last muscle spasm, and she attacks. The water explodes in a white storm of bubbles. Its jaws close on the turtle's shell. The force is immense. Bones crack beneath its bite. It shakes its head once, twice, jolting its prey until the sea calms again. Then silence. Its jaws move methodically, crushing, grinding, swallowing. Shell fragments float down, carried by the current. Smaller fish swarm over them, pecking at the scraps left by the tiger shark. After a while, its hunger wanes. Its pace slows again. She slides forward, slightly parting her mouth to taste the water. Further on, something floats on the surface, a tangle of seaweed wrapped around a piece of floating debris. Curious, she approaches. She gently nudges it with her snout. It smells of seaweed, salt, and a faint metallic note. She turns it over once, examines it, and continues on her way. For the tiger shark, curiosity is instinct. She investigates everything, dead or alive. Ships, turtles, seals, even human waste. For her, every object holds the potential to contain food or information nearby. Another shark emerges from the mist, smaller but with similar stripes. They circle slowly around each other, sizing each other up without aggression, without haste. For an instant, their patterns align perfectly like twin shadows moving in unison. Then, with a flick of her tail, she continues on her own. Although they hunt alone, tiger sharks are not isolated. Their territories overlap, and in certain feeding areas, such as whale carcasses, shallow harbour waters, and fish cleaning zones, they congregate together. Each has its place. They are based on body language, arching, going around slowly. Sudden turns, this entire hierarchy of signals. As the sun rises, the light turns silvery. The shark veers out to sea, leaving the coral colours behind to venture into the faint expanse of sand. The seabed here is almost flat, broken only by the occasional ray or scattered coral. It slows down, scanning the water column for electrical pulses. Faint signs of buried prey, a sudden flick of its snout and it dives, slamming into the sand. A cloud of dust. A hidden ray is freed too late. It bites it once and it's gone. For months it will travel from island to island, following the warm currents and the migrations of its prey. On some days it takes advantage of the updrafts near the seamounts. On other days it drifts along the coasts where seabirds dive to fish. They always return to familiar routes, to familiar depths. Scientists have tagged tiger sharks in Hawaii and tracked them years later, returning to the same bay, the same coral reef. As evening falls, the sea calms again. It sinks deeper, remaining motionless in the shadow of a rocky outcrop. Its fins barely touch the water. A cleaner wrasse approaches, pecking at small parasites along its flank. As evening falls, the colours of the reef fade. The light turns amber, then red, and finally black. The nocturnal world awakens. The eels slither out of their dens. The squid emerge from the depths. Plankton bloom in the clouds. The tiger shark resumes its patrol, its silhouette a ghost among the corals. Bioluminescent sparks flash in its wake, tiny lights tracing the curve of its tail. It senses a faint pulse, the erratic heartbeat of a wounded fish. She turns towards it, guided by electroreceptors in her snout. These sensors can detect the heartbeat of prey from several meters away. A dying parrotfish floats near the surface, wounded by a moray eel attack. The shark ascends, slowly and steadily. The fish twitches once, twice, and disappears into its jaws. The tiger shark is both a hunter and a scavenger. Without her, carcasses would pile up, disease would spread, and the balance would be broken. Her appetite keeps the reef going. Weeks pass. The water warms. Spring gives way to the beginning of summer. It's mating season. Far from the coast, in deep channels between islands, the males begin to congregate. They patrol the borders of her territory, drawn by her scent trail. One approaches, circling ever closer. Her body bears scars from past encounters. When he gets too close, she turns sharply, exposing her belly in a warning gesture. He pauses, hesitates, and then enters. The encounter is brief and intense. When it's over, he floats away, leaving fresh bite marks on her fins. Now pregnant, she will carry her pups in her womb for more than a year. Each one grows in its own chamber, nourished by the yolk until it is ready to swim. During this time, it slows down, spending long hours adrift in the currents between the islands. When the time comes, she will seek out shallow bays where the water is calm and warm. There, near the roots of mangroves or in sandy lagoons, she will give birth to a dozen or more pups, each already striped, each ready to fend for itself. The young people will remain close to the coast. They feed on crabs and small fish, learning the textures of the current and the tide. His mother will not stay. She will return to deeper waters. The sun has set again. The sea reflects the moon, pale and infinite. The tiger shark glides through the dim light around it. The Pacific vibrates with silent life. Whales in the distance, the chittering of shrimp, the gentle whisper of currents brushing against the coral. A new current rises, carrying westward the last fragments of the turtle it had hunted. Shell fragments, bits of meat, and tiny calcium particles sink into the blue. The water darkens. The surface turns brackish. Mangrove roots appear, extending like fingers into the brown water. Visibility decreases. The salt recedes. Here ends the tiger's ocean, and from the darkness of the river's mouth emerges another form. At the mouth of the Zambezi, the river and the ocean meet in a whirlpool of worlds. The water is full of silt. It shines like gold in the morning sun. The roots of the mangroves twist like dark veins through the mud, anchoring the land against the restless tide. Beneath the opaque surface, a shape moves, broad-headed, muscular. Sure. This is the bull shark, Carchahinus lucus. It glides forward, its dorsal fin slicing through the surface for an instant before disappearing again. Its skin, pale grey above and white below, blends into the changing light. Around them, mullet flash silver as they cluster near the boundary where salt water meets fresh water. For the bull shark, this is the boundary between two worlds, both belong to him. The tide begins to rise, flooding the estuary with seawater. She senses this through subtle chemical changes in her gills. Her body responds instantly, altering her internal salt levels. Few creatures her size can make such a transition. She is a master of adaptation, a predator designed for both the vastness of the ocean and the confinement of the river. Each flick of its tail sends vibrations through the darkness. Its senses reach beyond sight. Electroreceptors track the faint heartbeats of its hidden prey. Ahead, there is a disturbance. A cloud of sediment rises as the catfish flee in panic. The shark attacks, turning with brutal precision. The water boils with the movement, then calms. In the ensuing stillness, it feeds. Its jaws crush bone, pierce the smooth armor of scales, its movements slow again, and it drifts with the current, in rhythm with the tide. At midday, the sun is high in the delta. Heat spreads across the water's surface, and the air hums with the chirping of insects. Underwater, the world is bleak and dense. The bull shark rests where the current slows, its body tilted slightly upward to allow water to flow over its gills. Small remoras cling to its belly, feeding on scraps and parasites. She tolerates them. Nearby, another bull shark appears, drawn by the scent of blood in the current. They approach cautiously. They circle, maintaining the same speed and distance. One grazes the other's flank, a test, a warning, no need to fight. The hierarchy is established without violence. For a few minutes they drift with the current, their shadows overlapping in the brown mist. Then they separate. The estuary teems with activity. Schools of gilthead bream glisten in the shallow pools. Crocodiles lurk at the edges of the reeds. The birds fly in circles above, but deep down the bull shark controls its salinity with astonishing precision. The cells in its kidneys and rectal gland work constantly to maintain this balance. This allows it to go where no other large shark can, to the depths of rivers. When the rainy season arrives, the delta swells. Rainwater from the distant highlands floods the estuary, carrying branches, leaves, and the scent of the earth. The current intensifies, and the bull shark swims upstream. It propels itself against the current, its muscles contracting with a steady rhythm. Her journey will take her hundreds of kilometers inland. Mangroves of the past, across sandbanks, venturing into the wild arteries of Africa's great river. The farther you go, the sweeter the water becomes. Your body readjusts, eliminating salt and altering its internal chemistry. You slow down near a wide bend where the water runs warm and shallow here. The river teems with life. Tilapia, catfish, small tent, easy prey. It is a place of abundance and, even more importantly, of safety. The bull shark circles once or twice and then descends into shallow water. Now she is heavy, her belly full of pups. Each embryo inside is alive and active, feeding on the unfertilized eggs in the uterus. When the time comes, she lies on her side and gives birth. One after another, tiny, perfect replicas emerge, each barely 60 centimeters long. They swim instantly, instinctively toward the refuge of the reeds. The mother pauses for only a moment, watching as the river embraces them. Then she heads downstream. Your task is complete. For the young, this freshwater nursery is a sanctuary. Here, few predators dare approach. Crocodiles pose a threat, but the juveniles quickly learn to stay in shallow pools where the reptiles can't easily turn around. They feed on shrimp, small fish, anything they can find as they mature. Instinct draws them towards the sea, towards the taste of salt. The mother travels with the low tide, following the river's course toward the shore. Along the way, she hunts opportunistically, lungfish, eels, even carrion washed ashore. Her body remains strong despite the long journey. She saves energy by using electricity to propel herself for hours. The river narrows, its current quickens, and its sound deepens as it nears the sea. It flows once more beneath the shade of the mangroves, through eddies of brackish water where the fresh water turns blue. As it approaches the delta, the tide recedes and it meets the river's current head-on. The foam accumulates in swirling lines. The bull shark darts through the current, flexing its body to maintain control. One last push and the pressure eases. It's free of the river. The scent of salt water fills its gills again. It has returned to the ocean now. Out at sea, the world changes again. Visibility stretches for meters. The water is cool, clear and blue. It swims along the continental shelf, scanning the depths. Other bull sharks join it here, scattered travelers converging on the same migratory route. They move together, without much coordination, but never in training. At dusk, the sea glows with a soft light. The bull shark glides near the surface, its dorsal fin silhouetted against the starlight. Its eyes catch the glimmer of the plankton. It feeds for the last time before nightfall. A school of jacks swims by and she dives through them. This is where the journey ends. From the mangrove nurseries to the open abyss, from shallow water hunters to deep-sea navigators. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the sharks glide silent, graceful, unstoppable.